Hello everybody, welcome back to What If video. Now this is What If Deku had the powers of Pandora's actor from Overlord. Now, so our story will start off with we're actually not gonna start with Deku. We're actually as Deku will be born, not in Japan but in Germany. As he's raised there. Inko will still be his mother, and she will be Japanese, as his father is German. Now, his primary language would be German, of course, but he does know Japanese. Now, he prefers German over Japanese, though, because they're in Germany, anyway. So he's better with German than Japanese. Now, but that's where we're stopping with Deku, as I'm not going to go over crap that happened in Germany for this What If. So, we're going to cut over to UA after the entrance exam, and on the first day. Deku will not be there, not yet. Anyway, so, now, Deku looks normal. He does not look like Pandora's actor. He has his normal look, except he's taller. Anyway, we're gonna say at least 8 his height. 5 something, I don't remember. 5'10", I think? I don't remember. Anyway, but 8 his height. Now, so, Deku then had, or Deku, not Deku, as we're gonna say, who should we put? We're gonna say it's that short dude from Class 1B, or we'll replace Deku for Class 1A. For now, as it's the quirk apprehension test, and he gets last. As Aizawa says, I'm not gonna kick you out of Class 1A. As he breathes out of his life, or I'm not gonna kick you from UA, or expel you, as I would say. He would breathe a sigh of relief, and as then Aizawa would say, but I will be kicking you out of Class 1A, and you'll be moved to Class 1B. Get your things, and you'll be heading to Class 1B tomorrow, he would say. He's sad, but he's still gonna be at UA anyway. Just in Class 1B. Now, as Class 1B had 19 students, as Vlad would have expelled somebody because of bad behavior, basically. Now, on the first day, which is worse. Now, so, Vlad expelled that boy, and now the dude, the short kid, well, I think he has the ability, or his quirk allows him to reflect any physical damage, like Esteros' full counter from Seven Deadly Sins. I think it's like that. Anyway. Now. So, Deku then goes, or not Deku, goddammit. No, the dude goes to Class 1B the next day. As Aizawa then tells Class 1A that we have a transfer student from Germany. It's Deku. And we'll be surprised that they're getting a transfer student from Germany. Now, Deku, you went to the #1 school and went to the #1 hero school in Germany. Now, where he's actually been that student of that school longer than they've been in UA, at least by a few weeks. Now, as I would say in terms of experience, and intelligence, he has all of you beat. As his quirk is pretty unique, but you understand when you see it. As you then tell Deku to walk into the room, and Deku walks in, wearing the UA uniform. He salutes and says hello in German, and then apologizes in Japanese and says, I forgot. as he would apologize, saying he forgot that none of them will understand his German, as no one will. Ow! God damn! That hurt. Now, they're surprised at Deku, but that's about it. As all begins teaching, and everyone wants to know more about Deku, as they've never been to Germany before. Now, now, All Might would come in and do his old thing. Everyone would cheer, Deku included, because he would know about All Might. As All Might is the #1 hero in Japan. Now, now, everybody would then put on their hero costumes. Deku would wear what Pandora's actor wears. His World War II Nazi uniform, basically. Now, I wouldn't be surprised by it, but would say it fits him because he's German. As then he would go, as everyone would be put on teams, as it's Deku and Uraraka versus Bakugo and Ida. But before the match has out, as Deku then speaks to All Might, asking him a few questions about Japan and what it's like being a hero in Japan. And Deku learns enough about All Might to transform into him, but he'll save that for later. He's gonna hide his most powerful forms for later. Everyone does wonder what Deku's quirk is, as he has not told them or given them a hint yet. Now, Deku's read about each individual person from Class 1A. As he was told, in his old school, that if someone from UA in Japan were to be kicked out, that he would be moved to that class, or class 1, if someone in class 1 would be kicked out, that's where he would be moved to. As Deku just says, okay. And Deku was then given sheets of paper about each individual person in Class 1A. Deku learning each and all their quirks. Now, and learning enough about them to transform into them as well. Seeing only 2 quirks, he finds he only seeing 2 quirks. Or only 2 of the quirks are to his liking: Bakugo's and Todoroki's. Now, as Deku then goes, and they walk inside. Uraraka would ask what his quirk is, as Deku would say, "You'll see." And he would ask Uraraka what's her quirk, or Uraraka would ask if he knows about her quirk, and Deku says, "I know about everyone's quirk in Class 1A. I do my research." Now, actually, we're going to say Deku cannot transform into All Might, because he doesn't know what All Might's quirk is. He has to know the name of the quirk to be able to transform into them, so he can mimic the quirk properly. Anyway, now, Deku then goes... Now, as Deku then, as Bakugo comes up, as Deku then tells Uraraka to get behind him, and she does. Deku calculates Bakugo's attacks and dodges them appropriately. Deku then say enough and then transform into Todoroki and would freeze Bakugo over. Bakugo being unable to sweat to do an attack, as this caught him off guard. Everyone is surprised that Deku not only copied Todoroki's quirk, but mimicked his entire appearance. Deku changing back to his own form. It then says that was too easy in German, before walking off, and Uraraka following him. Uraraka would be dumbfounded as she then asks his quirk, as Deku then say, my quirk is called Doppelganger. If I know enough about somebody, I can completely mimic their form, in every shape, or in every way. Quirk included, Deku would say. But it has to be a perfect imitation. I cannot change it whatsoever. And I cannot copy the gear they're wearing. It will look like I copied the gear, Deku would say, but I truly cannot. Now, Meta gets a lot of pervy thoughts after hearing Deku's quirk. But, unlike Mineta, Deku is not a pervert, anyway. So, they go inside, as Deku and Uraraka come up with a plan to take down Ida. As Deku then transforms into who would be a good match for Ida. We'll say he transformed into Asui. And actually, to everyone's surprise, he camouflages himself. Deku, being very intelligent, would be able to learn things about the quirks of others before even they would know. So let's say if he transformed into Bakugo, he would already figure out about AP shot, and or be able to use. Basically, he has a very much likelihood of being able to use the quirk better than even you can. Now, everyone was surprised as he then whispers to Uraraka to open the door, and she does. Deku hiding behind Uraraka while invisible. As then, Ida then sees her and rushes in, thinking that maybe Deku's fighting Bakugo. But to his surprise, a tongue comes out of nowhere and wraps on his leg. As Deku then jumps all around him and wraps also his tongue, the form he's mimicking, to all around Ida, locking him up. As they then tell Uraraka to go touch the bomb. Now, as Uraraka touches the bomb, and All Might's his hero team wins. Everyone is still surprised about Deku's quirk. Now, Baku's still stuck in ice, freezing his ass off, and being pissed. Now, as Deku then changed forms, the tongue completely disappearing. As Deku changed back to his original form. Now, Deku then goes and Deku then goes back, turns back into Todoroki, and uses his fire side to free Bakugo. Bakugo would be pissed, but cannot do anything as he lost. And Deku's already proven that he has more combat experience. Now, Deku then goes, as they then if Deku would go back to observation room with Ida and Todoroki, Ida, Bakugo, and Ochako behind him. Bakugo being pissed that he lost, Eden were confused about Deku's quirk, and Uraraka just surprised by his quirk as well. Now, the as Deku and Deku and everyone else shows back up the observation room as everyone's asking questions about Deku's quirk. As Deku then explains his quirk as doppelganger, and that he can read surface thoughts on people's heads, but only surface thoughts. He cannot dig any deeper to get base information on that person, and can only mimic someone to such a degree. As his look, the looks of his forms are perfect, but he has to learn more about that person's personality to act the way they do. Like I would explain to everyone. Then Mineta would ask if he can look at the person's body without clothes. As Deku would say yes. In fact, I can. But I prefer not to, as that's a wrong thing to do, Deku would say. And Mineta tells him to do it for him, and Deku then calls him a pervert in German. And then tells him in German that he is not going to do any of that. As everyone then, we'll say Momo then politely reminds him that none of them can understand him. As Deku then apologizes again, and then re-says everything in Japanese. Now, as Deku then, or Deku and everyone, as Deku then will begin watching other matches. Him getting a basic understanding of getting a better understanding of everyone's quirks. But before also his fight, also would ask him how did he do invisible. As Deku then explained, your quirk is frog, and some frogs have the ability to camouflage. So that's what I did, was camouflage. Also would say that she didn't even know that. Yes, Deku would then say, that's why I was considered the best at my school. I could use quirks better than even their original users. Now, All Might is impressed with Deku, basically. Now, every other fight goes the exact same. Now, we're gonna cut to after class when everyone's talking and just trying to get along, or trying to get to know each other more. As if we're gonna then asking Deku about Germany again. Now, who should I ship with Deku? I have an idea. Anyway, I'll decide that later when I actually get into it. Now, so Deku and I just thought about something that's brokenly fucking overpowered. Now, Deku will then head back to his house. And then head back to UA the next day. Now, everyone then heads or everyone heads back to UA the next day, and I saw one onto the UASJ. Now, Deku then, or as Deku and everyone else got on the hero costumes, as Momo would ask more questions about his quirk. And Deku does explain some of the requirements that he has to know about the person's quirk, what they can do with it, what the basics of it, what they can do with it, and that he can think of ways to improve upon them. And then he would use also his quirk for an example about how she didn't know that she could camouflage, and he figured it out in a matter of seconds of using her quirk. Now, Momo decides to test his intelligence while on the bus and realizes that Deku is smarter than her, which would mess up her, which would sort of dip her deeper into the not confident in her abilities thing. Their whole thing is being the smartest person in Class 1A. Now, but Deku would then say out of everyone in Class 1A, Momo is the smartest, based on her scores at least. But the strongest would have to be Todoroki, he would say. If he decided to use both sides, but if he used one side, then it's Katsuki Bakugo, as ice does not have anything good against explosions. Which would not take off Bakugo, take off Todoroki, as Todoroki would say, I don't have to use my fire side to beat that explosive blonde. As Deku would then ask them, why do you, and Deku would ask curiously, why do you not use your fire side? As Todoroki would then say, I don't like using his power, or his quirk. And Deku then took his head, saying his quirk. But weren't you born with that quirk? Isn't it yours? Or did he give it to you? Which would surprise Todoroki. And Deku then say again, is it his powers or yours? Does it belong to him? Or do you let him have it? And then go back talking to Momo as Todoroki just looks at his hands. His mind fucking blown. Anyway, they'll then head to the USJ, as Todoroki would not use his fire side yet. Now, Deku pushed him closer to using it, but not close enough. That'll be later. Now, Deku will then walk inside, and everything goes again, and the villains would attack. As then Deku, Asui, and Mineta are teleported to the water zone. As Deku transforms into, let's see, it would be a good choice. There's the entire class of 1A. We'll say Todoroki. As he touches the water, he gets out and immediately freezes the water over, and then begins to stand on top of it. As Asui then lands on the boat and sees him walking on frozen water, freezing it as he walks. And then he would then raise his hand and also use her tongue and grab his arm, lifting him onto the boat. And Deku would then say to the both of them that they clearly don't know what our quirks are, but anyway, they're dealt with. Now let's head back to shore. As Asui and Mineta nod, and then begin walking back to shore. Now, As Deku would then go through his transformations, seeing which one would be useful against the Nomu. None of them being that great. Now, the problem about Deku's transformations. If he wants the quirk he transformed into, or the quirk he's copying to improve, he has to improve it manually. He can't use the person's as he will not improve as the person who it belongs to improves. He has to improve it by himself, which is really easy for him. Anyway, now Deku would rocket Deku also Yamato head to shore. As Deku then goes, or as Shigaraki sees them and tries to decay, also Yamato's face. Deku would his mind would then thinking a million seconds. As he would then transform into Todoroki and try blasting him with Shigaraki with fire. As fire then come out of Deku's side, and blast Shigaraki, who would dodge back. As the Nomu then rush in and try punching Deku. Deku would then freeze the Nomu over. Deku would whistle and say, what is this thing? What quirk does it have? Shigaraki begins laughing, saying that is Nomu. It was designed to kill All Might. It has shock absorption and regeneration. As Deku would say, perfect. And he then transforms into the Nomu. Deku looks at his hands and says, this would be perfect for counting All Might. I'll hold on to this form. As then Deku just transforms into the Nomu, would then begin fighting the Nomu. Now, All Might would show up seeing Deku transform as a Nomu, fighting the Nomu. As he would ask what's going on, and also he would tell him, saying the one with the green markings all over his body is Izuku. And the one with just to tell them apart. Also would say that one's Izuku and the other one he's fighting is the Nomu. As All Might would come down and ask which one's which, or All Might would think also he would jump down and ask which one's which. As Deku would then begin talking, asking for All Might's help as he is reaching his limits. All Might would then thank Deku for holding him off so long, as Deku then jump back. All Might then taking on the Nomu. As Deku stays in the form of the Nomu and charges, as he'd go over and charge Shigaraki. As Kurogiri would then begin fighting him. Kurogiri and Shigaraki begin fighting Deku. But because Deku's in the form of the Nomu, they're having a hard time. As All Might then beats the Nomu, because it was already having it, as Deku and the Nomu were already pretty even. And Deku did land a lot of hits on the Nomu, because the Nomu did not decide to block. So his shock absorption would be slightly weaker than it was in canon, from Deku punching it. And All Might then have an easier time and would not use up as much time. But he would still be at his limit. Not pushing his limit though. As he would then punch the Nomu and send it flying. And Shigaraki and Kurogiri would escape. Deku already getting a good grasp on Shigaraki's quirk and his look. So Deku can copy Shigaraki now. But he cannot copy Kurogiri and he doesn't understand why. He understands his quirk is warp, but doesn't know why he can't copy him. Unless he has a quirk Deku doesn't know about, then he can't copy. As Deku then realizes he probably has a quirk I don't know about, which is why I can't copy him. Anyway, Deku would say, as he really wanted Kurogiri's quirk, as Kurogiri's warp would be very, very useful. Now, Deku will then go. Deku will then go, and as he would cheer on, or tell Bravo All Might, as Cementos and all the other heroes would come in, and Cementos would try hiding All Might from Mizuku, but Deku would see All Might's Small Might form. And Deku would walk up to Small Might and ask him about it. All Might telling Deku he'll explain to him later, but right now he has to get out of here before the other students see him. As Deku salutes and says okay. Now we're going to go back to UA, where Deku is sitting down in his hero costume talking to a Small Might. And All Might then says that's everything. And Deku says, so, this villain named All for One. His quirk is called All for One. But because I don't know his look, I can't copy him. If I could copy, yeah, I could at least, I won't be able to copy his other quirks. But I can copy his original quirk and take his quirk away, giving it to myself. All Might would then begin thinking and say that's a great idea. But All Might then think again and see Deku as a worthy candidate for One for All. As All Might would then offer Deku One for All. And Deku would think and accept. Saying in German, who would not want the number one hero's power? All Might would laugh nervously and rub back his head, saying I had no idea what you just said. As Deku would then apologize and say who would not take that power. As All Might would then give Deku a piece of it. As All Might would then ask Deku's physical abilities. As Deku would ask, or All Might would ask Deku to demonstrate his physical abilities, so he can get a good grasp on if he can handle One for All or not in his base form. As Deku would. As he would then show off his physical strength, All Might being impressed, because even though his quirk is very powerful, he does work his body. Now, All Might would be impressed as he then gives Deku his hair, telling him to eat this. As Deku then says that's disgusting in German, but then grabs the hair and eats it. Now, All Might, as Deku would then get one for all, as All Might take him out and they would test it. Deku throwing a 100% smash in his right arm. Of course, breaking his right arm. Him just activating, changing forms. In that form, his arm would be broken. As any damage he takes in his original form would transfer to his other forms, as he transforms into someone from Germany who has a healing quirk, and heal his arm, healing it back to 100%. As Deku would say, that has a lot of power behind it. All Might would then tell Deku that he's holding it all in one place and should let it flow freely, and to try regulating the power. As Deku would do that, Deku being much smarter than his original counterpart, would get full caling then and there, and would get around 10% full caling. But Deku then say, because I know your quirk, he would then transform to All Might. And then says, I am here. All Might then bursting out laughing, as he's seeing himself. Now, and realizes how weird it is to see himself say his catchphrase in person. As Deku would then go back to his original form, saying, since I know your quirk, I can take on your form. And use the quirk as effectively as you do. Now, All Might would ask if he has a timer, and Deku would say, I don't have time on my transformations, but I don't know about your form, because of your injury and your timer already. But I might not. Deku would say, I might not. I might. I don't know. I don't plan on fighting someone for that long. If I use your form, it'll be my trump card, Deku would say. My ace in the hole. Now, Deku and All Might would then begin talking. As All Might would learn, Deku actually lives alone in his house. As his mom and dad decided to stay in Germany. As All Might would ask what he thinks of Class 1A. As All Might does know, Deku is a more experienced student and a much smarter student. As Deku would then say, they're all weak and inexperienced, but all have potential, Deku would say. All of them have a lot of potential to get stronger and become good heroes. Some more than others. But out of everyone, the weakest of Class 1A, Mineta, he does not have a lot of room for improvement. But he has to get creative with his quirk. If he gets creative and drops that pervy attitude, Deku would say, he could rival even Bakugo, Deku would say, as that quirk of his could work really well against someone with high mobility, like Bakugo and Asui, for example, Deku would say. If he just throws the ball and makes him stick to the ground and then they step on it, how are they going to move? And who are they going to strike back if he's far away? What we can think and say, I see your point. As Deku would then say, but that's highly unlikely for him, as he's too immature to even think about that. He might be able to do the creative part, but anything else would be out of his league because of his attitude. And he'll go on and explain everybody in Class 1A's flaws, weaknesses, and strengths. And then he'll get the smartest of Class 1A, Momo. And they could explain that she is by far the smartest in Class 1A, other than myself. But she lacks confidence. Her quirk is very powerful. It can be very powerful like every other quirk in this world. Every quirk in the world is very powerful and unique. A quirk is never useless, Deku would say. A quirk will always do something, and will always be good at least one or two situations. She has a variety of ways to deal with situations. But because of her confidence problem, he would say, she lacks the motivation. Not motivation. He would say, while holding his chin, she lacks... What's the Japanese word for it, he would say? As All Might would then say the word, and Deku would say that's it. And Deku would say that she lacks that. If she, or will, basically. The will to think of her own plans, and the confidence to think of actually go with them. As Deku would say, if she had the actual will to think of her own plans, instead of being submissive or independent, actually, Deku would say. If she was more independent instead of being submissive and going to other people's plans, she could be a big threat, Deku would say. Oh, by then laugh, saying you sound like my old teacher. And Deku would then laugh. All Might would then say, but unlike him, you don't hit me. And then Deku bursts out laughing, saying, I can barely imagine an old man hitting you. All Might would say, or not All Might, Deku would say to All Might. As All Might would then say he's scary. And Deku would say he can't be that scary. Cuts to the future where Deku's fighting Gran Torino. Anyway. Now, as this is a week's break, as Deku does decide to get everyone together to train. He does ask everyone if they want to train, with only a few people wanting, or on at most of the class when they would like to train, especially under someone who can improve their quirk or think of ways to use their quirks better than even they can. Now, Deku will then go as they would meet up. And Deku gives everyone a training regiment, and they all do it. Basically, it's what they did for the training camp up at the mountains, the mountain training camp arc. Basically, that's what they're doing, what they have to do. Now, everyone's improving their quirks under Deku's supervision. As he's improving the quirks of his best forms, his base form with One For All, his Todoroki form with fire and ice, and his Bakugo form with explosions are his three best forms. Three best forms that are not his ultimate form, which is All Might, basically. All Might with his One For All, which he can use around 100% of his One For All with All Might. Now, Deku will then begin training all three of those forms. Or all three of the forms he uses most. Now, everyone increases their power, their quirks, and all that. As Momo will then walk up to him and ask him how he figured out how do you figure out how to help everyone improve this fast. As Deku would explain that each quirk has their own weaknesses. We're working on getting rid of your weaknesses first is the best way to improve. Instead of just strengthening your quirk, how about we kick those weaknesses of all of your quirks? Deku would say, kick the weaknesses and then you're weak to nothing. Of course you will be slightly worse against that one thing you're weak to. But it would be a lot less. It would be a lot less, or a lot harder to take advantage of your weakness if you get rid of it. As Momo then say, I see what you're talking about. Now, as Momo then begins thinking, and Deku puts his hand on his shoulder and then says, but you need to do one thing. Your quirk itself is not that weak, and you don't have that many weaknesses. What your one weakness is your confidence it's the problem with your confidence. Deku would say, kick that weakness and you'll be a lot stronger. As your quirk is very powerful and you're very strong. And you're smart, Deku would say. All three of those going together would make you a very challenging opponent, even for myself. Deku would say, actually helping Momo's confidence problem. But also ignites a spark in her, as I will be shipping Deku and Momo. Now, as Momo then blush and then as Deku take his hand off her and then tip his hat, hiding behind his coat, as he's wearing his hero outfit still. As he notices that he may have accidentally made Momo have a crush on him. But anyway, Deku would think in his head. Anyway, now, Deku will then do team exercises, asking some teachers from UA for help. Or he would ask for a teacher from UA for help with this. We'll say All Might and Aizawa come to help him out. Realizing training under Deku, everyone's been improving. And 3 days in, Deku would call the teachers for teamwork improvement, or call All Might and Aizawa for teamwork improvement. They both come and ask what is it, as Deku would ask for them for help for teamwork improvement. And they then head back to UA, heading to one of the fields. Since they're technically still on break, no one has to show up. But everyone who's been training has. So Bakugo and Todoroki are not there. But everyone else is. As they had to fight All Might and Aizawa together. Now, as Deku sits in the back and leads them like a general, basically a general in the army. Everyone being surprised at his strategic knowledge. As he tells everyone what to do. As they would over the next few days, everyone on the last day before they have to go back and be forced to go back, not forced, but have to go back to UA for normal stuff, they would beat All Might and Aizawa, the class would. Everyone cheering and being happy that they've actually beaten them. They beat the number one hero and their teacher. All Might and Aizawa are impressed at how fast they grew at teamwork. As Aizawa would tell everyone who was there about the UA Sports Festival. Everyone then realizing that it was a very good thing they trained. And everyone would thank Deku. Deku told them all no problem. Now, as Momo walk up to him, blush, and ask him on a date, surprising Deku with how more confident she is. As Deku would say, you finally kicked that confidence problem. Good. But anyways, yes, I would go on a date with you, Deku would say. Now, Deku and Momo go on a date, and they begin dating after that. Now, as Deku and Momo would work together to find out better ways to improve the teamwork of each member of the team, including having Momo make earpieces for each person to wear while they're wearing their hero costumes, as each piece would match the hero costume of that person. Now, it's time for everyone head back as Aizawa then announces the UA Sports Festival again, everyone being ready. As Bakugo then walks out and still calls them extras. Deku then walks out, apologizes to them, and calls Bakugo a dick in German. We're gonna say Shinso will actually understand Deku's German. As Shinso then tells him, so you speak German like I do, or don't speak it, but you know German like I do. As Deku then look at Shinso in surprise, and they then have a conversation in German. No one else being able to keep up with them. Not keep up, but understand them. As then they both, as out for mutual respect, for they both know them learning German, they'll estimate each other's quirks. Both of them will. As Deku would say you first, as Shinso would say, or Shinso and Deku actually go off and talk by themselves. This is where Deku and Shinso actually will become friends. And Shinso's mentality of not having, or Shinso's mentality of people being born with better quirks would be broken here, now, as he would begin working hard in training. Now, as Deku would tell Shinso his quirk is doppelganger, and that he can transform into anyone as long as he knows what the quirk is. As Shinso then tells him his quirk is brainwashing, and that if you talk to him, he will be able to, he has to say gotcha, and you can, and he will be able to mind control you. As Deku would say, that's a pretty powerful quirk. But what if they don't speak to you? As Shinso say, then that's a problem. As Deku would then tell him to, as Shinso would then say, you must be pretty lucky being with a powerful quirk like that. As Deku would say, yes, I am pretty lucky. But you have to work hard to improve your quirk. And Deku then tells him to work hard to replace Mineta, basically. Deku then say, I hope you can replace some of the weaker students in my class that I do not like. Mainly Mineta, he would say. And yes, Shinso will replace Mineta and become Deku's basically right-hand man. As Shinso's pretty smart, or at least I think he's pretty smart, anyway. But that's where we're ending it off. I'll talk to you guys later.